Hello, everybody. Welcome to JK Shares. This is the day God has given us, bright and shining. Let us rejoice in it. That's my faith, ladies and gentlemen, Christian, born and raised. Regardless where you praise and who you praise, we all bless the good day. And today is a special day for me to be hosting two sisters, two adopted sisters. Unfortunately, I didn't meet my mom after she had already died. She never found out she has two sisters in Kampala. But here we are. We are excited and blessed and honored to be hosting Pendo and Julia. These are living in two different states. We have Pendo in Michigan, United States, and we have Julia in Los Angeles, City of Angels. And we don't have our brother aka Kafero, who is in Uganda. But Kafero, we know, we respect you, we love you, and you'll be honored during this conversation. My sisters, welcome to JK Shares. We've had so many guests here from all over the world. We've talked and covered so many topics throughout these recordings. We have done more than 200 episodes now. And today we want to tackle a subject that is dear and near to all of us. But before we do that, please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourselves, and we'll continue from there.
Okay. My name is Julia Zirimu. I live in Los Angeles, California, originally from Uganda. And I have lived in Los Angeles for over 30 years. I came here by way of marriage. I married the father of my children in Uganda, and so I've been here since 1989. So, yeah, I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having us, Jackson.
1989, I didn't know that. I was not yet born.
There you go. Oh, that's 1989, 98. 98, right?
1998, not 89.
98, sorry.
That's why I threw in
But the
that.
numbers flipped, yes.
You can to the date. Pendo?
Thank you for having us, Jackson. My name is Pendo Galukande. I am Julia's sister and now Jackson's sister as well.
Yeah.
I live in Uganda, that's my permanent address, but I'm in the US for my doctoral studies. I'm pursuing a doctorate in human development and family studies with a concentration in marriage and family. And yeah, excited to get into conversation with TJK and with my sister on a very important topic.
And today we don't have our brother who is in Uganda. One of you, please talk about our brother in Uganda. And a little bit also, Pendo, you have to talk about your husband since you are missing.
I can start with about our brother. So we do have a middle brother. So I'm the oldest, obviously. And our brother is the middle child, and Pendo is the last born. He resides in Uganda. He is a sandal maker. We love him dearly. And yeah, I don't know if you want to add anything else, sister. His name is Luanga Anthony Zirimu also. So
yes. Yeah, no, that's a good introduction. And my husband lives in Uganda. He is Moses Galukande. He's a professor in medicine and works at Makerere University. And yeah, he's part of our lives, my life and our lives. And yeah, he's represented in some way here.
Perfect. We met in mysterious ways with these two sisters who have really become dear and near to me. My nephew had Pendo as a counselor, marriage counselor, and recommended to meet, and we met. The rest is history. We've come to meet, we've come to know each other, we've met in person, we've met in Uganda, met the brother, we've met the son, we've met the husband. And now what is remaining is to take these two sisters of mine to Kanungu and meet Mosaic Aguri so we can get to know the adopted sisters he has. Today, we also want to really dig deeper, apart from how you grew up, your parents, which will come in through our conversation, want to dig deep on something that affects all of us, which is loss, death in our families. Our sister Julia came 1998, not 89, to United States through marriage, and she has faced a tragedy that affects all of us. Tragedy that most of us, when we face them, we tend to be introverted and not speak about it publicly, not let people know what's going on. Julia, I would like you to share the loss of our son, the circumstances surrounding it, and how you have been able to work through this. It's a continuous grief that goes on for the rest of our lives. May his soul rest in peace. And I think before we even get into talking about it, we should take a moment, a minute of silence, and honor him, respect him, and know that no matter circumstances, he will forever be with us. Amen. Please do share. We will make this a conversation. Pendo is an aunt. I'm an uncle who I never get a chance to meet, but here we are honoring him and respecting him.
First of all, Jackson, thank you so much for introducing my son and having that moment of silence for him. You know, I will talk a little bit more about how I have continued to honor his memory. So I came here by way of marriage. I had 2 children with my husband that I married in Uganda. And so the oldest child was Julian Aloma Asea. He was born May 10th of 1992. And I had another child later, 4 years later. Her name is Yvonne Asea. And she was born in May of 1996. So Julian was a precocious child, very, very inquisitive, very loving, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. At 4 years old, he wanted to be a paleontologist. I remember traveling to Uganda and having his father's friends, he would tell them he wanted to be a paleontologist. Like, what is a paleontologist? And he knew everything there was about a paleontologist. Just to show how his mind worked, he knew every single whale that was, known to man, every dinosaur. Like, he just was very, very intelligent that way. Unfortunately for the marriage, we split when he was about 6 years old, and a bond had already formed with his father, very tight bond. And it was devastating, not only for me, but especially for my children. Julian, after he did, all the Scientology and all of the science kind of interests, as he got older into teen years, he found basketball, which he excelled at, but sadly, which happens to a lot of people that play sports, he suffered a career. He wasn't a career, but he suffered an injury that stopped him from playing basketball. And I think at that point is when I noticed some signs of maybe depression. But at that point, I was a single mother, really focused on raising my children, making sure they have everything they need. So being focused on that, and part of what we'll talk about, obviously, is that we lost our parents at an early age. So I just had this survival instinct, and I felt like if I could persevere through that, I could persevere through anything. And so, I did take him to therapy for a bit. Once he recovered from the knee injury and the surgery, he discovered art. So he was very good at art. And, I felt like he had found something that was kind of like his purpose, something that would keep him upbeat and give him a purpose in life. However, as the teen years went on, he was in school. He was, super smart. Like he got A's without really trying hard, but following instruction or staying within, bounds of like being in class on time and stuff like that. We struggled with that a little bit, but I felt like, I talked to the teachers, if he had to redo a paper, we went through that. I also actually remarried at, I think he must have been about maybe 14. And I think that was the point where I started seeing a little bit more rebelliousness. But again, I thought that this was something that we could work through. 2 weeks shy of his 19th birthday, Julian took his life.
Mm.
So when I say that this was something that like I never would have imagined that my son would do, it's like very light, it's putting it very lightly. I felt like the ground had been ripped out from under my feet.
Yes.
My heart had been ripped out of my chest. It was just something that I never saw coming. Suicide is something that I always saw as, that happened to other people. It did happen to us. And, I obviously, my life was turned upside down, and I just had to find a reason to wake up the next day, because I had to be there for my daughter.
Yes.
So, I would say immediately started looking for a counselor. I found a grief counselor, but suicide is such a complex subject. It's like, it was not enough. Through blessings, I'm also a person of faith. And through different channels, I found an organization by the name of Dee Hirsch Mental Health Services. And through them, I was able to find a counselor who helped me to understand what is suicide. How does suicide affect a family that is seemingly, normal? How does suicide, how does somebody that had such a promising life ahead of them, decide to take their life? And through counseling, through an 8-week survivor support group, because you find that you are isolated, you feel you are alone. Being around people that had a similar loss really helped me to process my grief and to understand the magnitude of suicide. Suicide is something that is not spoken about. And if you hear a lot of people say, it's cowardly, but it's amazing to find that a lot of people that take their lives are thriving people. But, at the end of the day, most of them are people that help others, but are not able to help themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I'm just going to take a little breather if you want to ask.
Take a little breathing space. We
Yes.
come from a culture where people have a negative view of somebody taking their life. And here you were in United States, surrounded by people who mostly you had just really got to know. And here you are, you've lost a son, you have a daughter who still needs you, and you have yourself who still needs yourself. You have to be a mother, you have to be a sister, you have to be a sister-in-law, you have to pray all these different things. And so one of the reasons we've been talking about really having this conversation is to shed light on the struggles that comes with the loss, number one, but also the survival, number two. And since we're having this conversation, you have really had to employ different ways of coping. Maybe we can go to Aunt Pendo here and talk about the first time you heard about it, that Julian was gone. Your reaction and how you supported your sister as she recomposes herself to continue sharing this story.
Thanks, Jackson. I would like to just give a little bit of backstory as well from, how I saw Julian and then, how I got the news. So Julian was born in the United States, and I had never been to the US at that time. I think he came to Uganda when he was 18 months.
Mm.
And uh, I like that he would get confused between me and Julia. One time power went off and we were sitting in a circle and I said, "Come here," and he came thinking I was his mom, but later on, quickly realized that I wasn't. So I naturally just loved him because he was my sister's son. And then when I started visiting the States, Julia would very much treat us like I was the third child, like she had three children. We did several adventures. We went to Disneyland, the beach and whatnot with my niece and nephew and had such wonderful times together. And
Yeah.
I started to visit maybe every 2 years after that. And Julian, who had come to Uganda a couple of times, and he was so adventurous, so filled with life, so outgoing. I loved the way he loved his mother. His mother would dress up in the morning and he'd say, "Mommy, you sparkle." It was
Ah,
and it was just so sweet to see how, he just loved, loved, loved his mother, just the pinnacle of his existence, really. And of course, with time, Yvonne was born and she also came to Uganda. She was, also very loving, but more laid back than Julian, She'd lie in her bed and just say, "What? Bottle, bottle." This is when she wants her milk. And you
yeah,
think she's just singing, but she wants her bottle. Anyways, they were different kids, very different kids. And then with time, I would come and visit and spend more time with Yvonne because Julian would be out of the house, gone to school, and that type of thing. And by the time I started visiting, Julia and her husband had already split. And yeah, she was struggling as a single mom. She
Mm.
was doing well from my younger sister perspective. I couldn't see, I'd seen the struggle when the marriage was going through difficulties, but I was seeing more stability. But it's true that Julian was becoming a little bit more withdrawn, as all teenagers, I
Yes.
thought, are. And would visit, and maybe I come, and this time Julian's not coming with us. It's just us going, and Julian's not coming for this reason, and Julian's not coming for that reason. He'll eat with us maybe and then disappear, that type of thing. But never once did I think that this child is depressed, that this child is mental health. I don't know. I just did not know a lot about mental health. I did not know. I now feel like I knew nothing.
You couldn't see it.
I did not see anything. So it was Easter, um, 2011, right? And we had gone to my mother-in-law's for the weekend in Uganda, in Mukono, and I saw a missed call on my phone. And I thought, oh, this is Julia calling to wish me a happy Easter. I'll call her back. And then very quickly, a few minutes later, I saw a message from my uncle saying, "Oh, we didn't pray against the spirit of death." And I thought, what is this?
Mm.
I rang Julia back and heard her say that Julian was in intensive care.
Yeah.
And it was just shocking, shocking, like couldn't wrap my head around it. I spoke to Julia's ex at that time, husband, and I asked him what were the chances of survival. And he said, to be honest, there are none. You better come now.
Mm.
So my husband and I immediately made plans for me to travel to the US and that was the longest trip I've made to the US. I couldn't come fast enough. I could not imagine. Um, I could not. I was in shock. Let me just say, I was in shock. I couldn't wrap my head around anything. And I think for several months, for those of us who came and stayed with Julia, for several months, our bodies just took that shock, and we were in a state that I cannot describe to you.
Nam State, Julia, as a firstborn in a traditional Uganda society, you are trained to be strong. Be strong. Your brother needs you, your sister needs you, and you lost your parents way early. And I hear Pendo here saying, I came, I visited, but I thought everything was okay. Because that growing up, be strong is still clicking in. I have to be here for my little sister. I remember when we threw the 50th and now I've said it, 50th birthday of Pendo. You wrote me a card and said, thank you for taking care of my little sister. I have twin girls whose brother Noran and Nicholas. Noran is way older, but they say all the time, Noran introduces us as his little sister, his little sisters. But when this happened to you, how long did it take you to get out of that strong big sister, strong firstborn, to be able to communicate it to the family? And for those who it's still happening today, unfortunately, the reason we're having this conversation is to put light out there, to learn, relearn, and unlearn some things. For the firstborns who are out there watching this, going, I have to be strong no matter circumstances. Julia, Pendo are here to assure you when you have something like this, you need to open up as quickly as possible. Let the tribe come and support you. As much as we want to be stronger, as much as we want to support each other, we all need each other in these circumstances. So please do shed some light on that courage to communicate. You are far away, isolated from your house. People don't realize, those of us who live in the United States, how isolating it is.
Well,
To
absolutely. Speaking of being the oldest child, when we lost our parents, I was told by family friends that, I was 12 years old when we lost my father, and I was told, you have to be strong for your mother and your siblings. And right there, it's like the baton had been passed, and I'm like, you know, I don't remember expressing my grief. However, by the time I lost my son, being in a different culture opened my eyes up to being able to express oneself. And, when I say that the wind had been knocked out of me when I lost my son, I knew that the only way for me to survive was with support. Not
yes.
only did I have my church supporting me, my coworkers, but I knew I needed my family. And Pendo, immediately I reached out to her, and she dropped everything. She just dropped everything and came. And I am just eternally grateful for her being there, because whew, there are certain things when you lose a loved one, like you just lose the ability to function. And there's certain things you cannot do, like going in his room and handling his belongings. My sister did that. I mean, yeah, I am just very, very grateful for the family. And I was able, felt for the first time to grieve. I was able to grieve. And I would say it took me about a month to come up for air. And during that time, my village, it takes a village really to get to deal with this. So, and speaking of the adult child, of the oldest child, my son was the oldest. And when I separated from my husband, family members told him, you are the oldest. You have to be strong.
Yes. Take care of your mother. Take care of
The mother and the sister.
yes.
And he had what he was going through. I found out when I found journals after he passed away. He kept it inside. He may have written about it, but he never once said, Mom, I am suffering. Mom, I am sad. Mom, I am depressed. He never said it, not one time.
Ooh, and for those of us who are listening to us, this is reality. Reality in a sense that our children they are not the same. They express themselves differently. And here he was struggling and didn't have a way to express it, didn't write it down. We tend to look at these things and blame ourselves, but as believers, we also know Ecclesiastes chapter 3 tells us there's time, and God set that time for all of us. So for you, judgmental people out there, God designed you for whatever. Whether you will be seated in a car and get a heart attack or driving down the road and die in an accident, we don't know. His destiny was determined at birth. But those of us who still have a chance to speak to our children, this is an opportunity to also dig deeper. The reason I'm saying this, Julia, I have Nicholas, the oldest child. I have second sets of kids, married twice, divorced twice. We're in the same boat. And I keep telling Nicholas, the kids are not your responsibility because he wants to take it on. He's the firstborn. I'm a big brother. Dad, don't worry, I will make them lunch. Dad, don't worry, I'll drop them here. But at the end of the day, he's gone through knee surgery. One of the things he told me recently is my biggest struggle now is not to be able to play basketball, to do my skating. Recovering for 6 months for an active teenager is a real issue. And he's in therapy. I told him you need to go back see your therapist because that's a real issue that will eat you alive if not addressed. So parents, please talk to your children. Give them space. Some will open up, others will not open up. In this case, please talk about Yvonne. Yvonne lost her brother. And there you are. You need to be there for you. You need to be there for Yvonne. You need to be there for Pendo. You need to be there for Cafero. You called him a different name, Rwanga. That's my man, Cafero, with his heart. He could drop a song right now if we were with him. How did Yvonne cope with this? And how is she doing now?
Well, I learned very quickly after I lost my son that family members grieve differently.
Mhm.
Whereas I needed time to understand and to heal, within a week, she wanted to go back to school. And just like Penda was saying, I just couldn't wrap it around my brain. But through grief therapy, I understood that I had to let her cope in her own way.
Yeah.
So I immediately contacted her school, which was, I'm so thankful. They had a therapist on, on the premises, and she said, don't worry, we will take care of her. So her way of dealing with grief was to immediately immerse herself back in her school life. Um, Here in the United States, you can make a child go for medical care until they're 18. So I immediately got her to start going to therapy. But at 18, she decided she didn't want therapy anymore. So again, we dealt with grief
Yep.
very differently. I feel like she is actually, I don't even feel she's more introverted than I am. I'm extroverted. So I deal with it by venting, talking. And with her, she's more introverted. So I would say I don't think that she's really dealt with the death of her brother. Um,
Mhm.
she does deal with anxiety. Again, I can't really speak for her. She's a grown up now. She's 28. She could speak better for herself as far as grief is concerned.
Yes.
Um, but one of the things people ask you is that were you ever angry at your son for doing what he did? I was never angry at my son until I thought about my daughter. It's like, how could you leave your sister?
Mm.
When she starts dating and thriving, I just, those are the times when I just think, I just wish that he was here. to be there for her in that capacity, especially since she didn't have a father to do that for her.
Whew. 20 years, 28 years, Yvonne. Now let me speak to you. Yvonne, we love you. Yvonne, we feel your pain. Yvonne, please grieve in your own way. There's no uniform of grieving. We know you miss your brother, and we will continue to be here for you, to support you now and always. And your brother, no matter what, is looking down, so proud of the sister he left behind and the sister you are. And don't let that deter your dating. Don't let it deter your outgoing. Your mother is extrovert. I can testify. Be who you are. You are loved. And now I will let Pendo speak to Yvonne because she's going to watch this in her room alone, and we want to speak to her directly. Aunt Pendo, to your lovely daughter Yvonne.
And my niece will be cringing for us being so public because she is so
No.
private and she has a very active internal world. I think some of us process externally and some people process internally.
Yes.
And she has an entire universe. We all do, but I think she has a huge universe internally. So I really believe that she's walking this journey. I would like to participate more with her. And I'm just grateful for, that she's a survivor and she's here every day and yeah, trying to make sense of the world. We're very, very proud of her and always here for when she's ready to talk about this death.
Julia, how would you like the world to remember Julian?
Ooh, the way I would like the world to remember Julian, when you go through this grief journey, especially with suicide, initially all you can do is focus on the end. But through your grief journey, through your growth, which I've done a lot of work, you can move past the ending and try to remember our loved ones for who they were. Julian was, like I said, gregarious. Julian was funny. I mean, there are some jokes that he cracked that my sister still remembers. And he was an artist. He was deep. And what I learned is he was very sensitive, although he didn't let us see that side. He did not let us see how he was hurting. And so, I don't want my son's death to be in vain. I want us to realize that just because a person presents a certain way, there can be something deeper. I always used to ask him, "How are you, Julian?" And typical teenager, "I'm fine."
Yes.
But what I have learned is to dig deeper. Don't ask the surface questions. How are you feeling? How is your emotion? What hurts you? What is the last thing that made you feel uncomfortable, insecure, afraid, so that we can dig deeper and really understand what is going on underneath all of this. They say that a lot of times people who are suffering with mental illness, depression, wear a mask. And I truly believe Julian wore a mask, but that was the mask that was expected of him. I would say to every parent, relate to your child, dig deeper, ask the internal emotional questions.
And ask each other those internal emotional questions. The next thing I was going to ask you is advice you would give to parents, we have so many single parents raising children on their own. We have married people who are married but not married really, struggling in raising children, parents who are not on the same page in regard to raising their children. And now, since we have a professional counselor doing a PhD in marriage counseling here, she can chip in and tell that. And we have divorced parents who have had seamless divorces. They work together really nicely. We have those who are bitter with each other and they have children. So I wanted to ask you, what advice would you give? And you already done that. But each one of us have a mental health issue. Whether it shows up and it is treated, whether it is internal and we hide it from the world, or whether it is outside and we take medication for it, we all have one. And that means the children we brought in this world also get some of that. Others inherit what we have. And you just gave us the best advice. How are you doing? Does not cut it anymore. People just say, I'm okay. I'm fine. And leave it on the surface. If you don't go deeper, you don't find out. Recently, I was talking to a friend of mine whose friend has been depressed in the house, not even doing his work. But whenever he comes out and meets everybody, he's dressed sharp. He tells jokes. Everyone is thinking, yeah, 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 all is good. And same fate happened just a few months ago, a family that we both know, Pendo and I both know really, really, really closely. So it is all up to us to dig deeper. If you call Jackson and Jackson says, I'm fine, please try to find out more. How are you sleeping? Pendo does this to me. She asks me like 10 questions. Are you happy? How's your trip going? Is everything good? So you can get out. We all need somebody out there, and you are the first responders for your children. Pendo, please give advice to married people since you specialize in marriage counseling. Those of us who are divorced are outside the blanket would have to.
No, you're not. I'm going to make this comprehensive. So let me just say this, that one of the biggest risk factors for teen suicide is the parental relationship. When that suffers, if there's separation, divorce, the risk of the children getting to suicide it increases a lot more. So I like to say that our relationships are almost like weather systems. The mother and father, that relationship creates a weather system in which all the family members swim. And just the way they say now we are caught in a hurricane or something, that is what is happening with relationships. So you may think, oh, well, the children don't see, we never argue in front of them. But as human beings, we pick up very, very subtle cues. So anybody in a relationship and you have children, please know that you need to work on that health of that relationship. This is the weather system that the children are raised in. And in some ways, when it's not working, it pulls away your ability to nurture and parent. Now, for single parents, let me say that you also have a weather system. You also have an emotional, aura that you are emitting. Sometimes you're still very much in conflict with the person who left, your ex, and sometimes you're in conflict with them even when they've died. You remain, fighting and tumultuous, and that creates an environment that is difficult to have loving, nurturing, relationships. So I say, do the internal work, go to group, go for those who look for healing through spirituality. People look for healing different ways. Find your healing. And yeah, because when you are healed, you're more able to attend to, and we use the word attune to your children.
Thank you. Thank you for that advice. Julia, concluding words you would like to say as we finish this episode. We will have to have a different episode where Pendo digs deeper into relationships, dating, and marriage and divorce. But for now, we wanted really to pay tribute to our son, Julian, and have advice for you and know there is help out there. And so we'll give Julia an opportunity to say last words. Pendo, you can say a few last words, and we will conclude this episode in honor of our own and the support of our sister, as grief never ends, really.
So, in honor of Julian, one of the things that I have decided is to raise mental health awareness. Growing up, as my sister can attest, we saw people that acted differently, quote unquote, outside the box, and they used in Luganda to say "one eye dalu," like
Yes.
they are acting up or they're being disruptive. A lot of times that was a sign of mental illness. And those things were swept under the rug or joked about. This has raised our awareness. I think after losing Julian, we've been a little bit more vigilant, looking at ourselves, looking at relationship with others. And I just want everybody to be a little bit more vigilant with your family, with your friends. Ask them, just like you said, check in on them, and let's just raise awareness. One of the things I would not want another parent to go through is what I went through, losing a child the way that I did.
Thank you. Pendo?
Yeah, I'm right there with Julia on mental health has become of prime importance to both of us. Julia may not have told you, Jackson, but I don't know whether to announce your news.
Announce it.
She's just recently graduated with a bachelor's in psychology.
Yay!
Yeah. So here
of
we are now. Yes, sitting. I'm very proud of you, Julia. We have become mental health professionals, and I have a YouTube channel in which are devoted to just speaking about mental health issues. Because maybe there's a family out there for whom there's still time to save the lives of their children. The other thing I want to say is that I wonder how much our own trauma prepared the ground for this. So when we're caught in, like I said, family systems, in these weather systems of pain and pain that's not dealt with, they can affect for generations. So yeah, let's all become aware. It's a new world. We need to keep abreast with what's happening. And yeah, let's share this information and maybe we can save some lives. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Julia. Congratulations on your bachelor's. You were hiding from us. Now we know. And also, Pendo, thank you for putting up a channel to share information on mental health. Ladies and gentlemen, no matter where you are in this world, mental health is real. And professionals, now two sisters who are both professionals, are here to help you. Especially for my fellow Ugandans, we tend to think that seeking therapy and counseling is not something you want to do. Everyone is going to talk about you. There is online counseling. You can do it with somebody in Australia. One of the biggest marriage counselors I listened to is a German woman, Esther Perel. She has accent. I've never seen her. She's never seen me, but she gives me pointers that I use. I belong to a group of people. Every Friday we have therapy, group therapy. Every Friday at 9 a.m. And I've said it so many times because I want especially Ugandan men to know that doing this therapy does not take away my CEO role, does not take away my Salongo title, does not take away my father of 4 children, does not take away my 3 PhDs. I'm still the Jackson. I'm still the man you know, and I am doing it. Do not die in silence when we have, and many of you are walking dead. You are breathing, but you are mentally dead, you are spiritually dead because of the pride of I cannot seek help. Pendo will come back at another time She will share resources. She will share Uganda therapists and counselors who are available, and her YouTube will be shared here. And when she comes back, we will share it. Julia, we thank you for the courage, for the love, for the opportunity, and for sharing this difficult subject with the world. Thank you for coming. Please, in honor of Julian, be aware that this is amongst us, and we can all work together to raise awareness and talk about it, no matter circumstances. We know the best is yet to come. Continue to share the video, continue to bring more visitors. Thank you for tuning in. God bless you, and God bless all the work you are doing.